How often do you find yourself looking back, wishing you had done things differently? A few years ago, I caught myself staring at an old photo, remembering the choices I didn't make and opportunities I let slip away. That moment weighed on me, a familiar ache called regret. It felt like carrying a heavy backpack filled with all the what-ifs and should-haves of my life. But then, I stumbled upon the teachings of Marcus Aurelius, the ancient Roman emperor, whose wisdom offered me a way out of this mental trap. His life-changing advice didn't just help me let go of regret. It taught me how to age better, focusing on what truly matters. In this video, I'll show you how Marcus Aurelius's Stoic philosophy can transform the way you deal with regret, making your later years not just tolerable, but extraordinary. Stick around till the end, because these lessons have the potential to change how you live your life right now. Part 1. Why do we regret the past? Regret is one of the most powerful emotions we experience as we age. It sneaks up on us during quiet moments or in the middle of a hectic day, and suddenly we're reliving decisions we made or didn't make. But why does regret hold such power over us? As humans, we are naturally inclined to reflect on the past. It's how we learn, grow, and make sense of our experiences. However, when we cling too tightly to these memories, we risk letting them control us. This is where the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius comes in. As one of the great Stoic philosophers, he faced immense challenges as a ruler of the Roman Empire. Yet, through it all, he developed strategies for managing life's emotional tolls, including regret. He knew that dwelling on the past does nothing but rob us of the present, and through Stoicism, he found a way to live in harmony with the inevitable weight of human emotion. His lessons provide a roadmap for anyone looking to lighten the load of regret as they grow older. Part 2. The burden of regret. Let's face it, regret often feels like a heavy burden we carry on our shoulders, especially as we age. It's that nagging voice in your head that says, "If only I had done things differently." Maybe it's about a career path not taken, a relationship that ended, or words left unsaid. The feeling of regret can be overwhelming, and many people struggle with it more as they get older, as time itself feels like it's slipping away. The reason regret can be so powerful is because it represents lost potential. As time goes on, we feel like we're running out of chances to correct past mistakes or take on new opportunities. This emotional weight can prevent us from enjoying the life we have now, leading to feelings of frustration, sadness, and even bitterness. But what if we told you that there's a way to let go of that burden? What if you could age better by changing your relationship with regret? Marcus Aurelius believed it was possible, and his Stoic philosophy offers valuable insights into how to do this. Part 3. Who was Marcus Aurelius? To understand how Marcus Aurelius' teachings can help us deal with regret, let's first dive into who he was. Marcus Aurelius was a Roman emperor who ruled from 161 to 180 AD during a time of war, political unrest, and personal challenges. But beyond his duties as emperor, he was also a Stoic philosopher who wrote down his reflections in what is now known as meditations. These writings weren't meant for public consumption, but were a form of personal journaling, a way for Marcus to reconcile his emotions with the harsh realities of life. His philosophy revolved around control, what we can control versus what we cannot. He emphasized virtue, wisdom, and inner peace as the ultimate goals of life, and he believed that external events, including past mistakes, should not disturb our inner tranquility. In other words, Marcus knew a thing or two about dealing with regret, and his wisdom has been guiding people for centuries. What made Marcus Aurelius unique was his ability to integrate Stoic philosophy into everyday life. He didn't live in an ivory tower, removed from the challenges of ordinary people. Instead, he faced hardship head-on, often dealing with personal and professional setbacks. His ability to maintain his composure and continue moving forward, even in the face of regret, makes his advice timeless. Stoicism and regret go hand in hand because the core of Stoic philosophy is about how we react to what happens to us rather than the events themselves. The Stoics, including Marcus Aurelius, taught that external circumstances are beyond our control, but how we perceive and respond to them is entirely up to us. This idea is crucial when dealing with regret, which often stems from events in the past, things we can no longer change. Marcus Aurelius, through his reflections in Meditations, constantly reminds himself that dwelling on what's already happened is futile. He tells himself, and us, that we can't control the past, but we do have power over how we interpret it. This lesson is essential for aging well because it helps us avoid being trapped by regret and instead focus on what we can still influence in the present. For instance, in one of his famous passages, Marcus says, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This quote speaks directly to the heart of dealing with regret. It reminds us that while we cannot undo past actions, we can control how we think about them and what we learn moving forward. Letting go of what we cannot change is the first step toward aging gracefully and living with peace of mind. Lesson 1. The present moment is all that matters. Marcus Aurelius was deeply committed to living in the present moment. He saw the past as something we cannot change and the future as something uncertain, emphasizing that the only reality we have is the present. This is where we must focus our energy. In Meditations, Marcus writes, "Confine yourself to the present." This idea of focusing solely on what is happening right now is a powerful tool for anyone dealing with regret. Why? Because regret is often rooted in the past. We think about what we should have done, how things could have been different, and we lament the consequences of those actions. But Marcus reminds us that these thoughts are useless. The past is gone, and no amount of regret can change it. By focusing on the present, Marcus urges us to let go of the emotional baggage that comes with regret. He suggests we direct our energy toward what we can control, our current actions, our current mindset, and the decisions we make today. This doesn't mean ignoring past mistakes. Instead, it means learning from them and applying that wisdom to the present moment, where we have real agency. Here's a question to reflect on. How much time do we spend reliving old decisions? It's a common habit. Perhaps you're lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about a choice you made years ago that didn't turn out the way you wanted. Or maybe you replay moments of regret during your commute, wishing you could go back and rewrite history. But how much does this actually serve you? Marcus Aurelius would argue that this habit of mentally revisiting the past is a waste of our most valuable resource, time. Time that could be spent improving the present and shaping a better future is instead wasted on regrets. He wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." In other words, by constantly revisiting our past mistakes, we are failing to truly live in the now. Stoicism encourages us to interrupt this cycle of regretful thinking. Every time we catch ourselves dwelling on the past, Marcus's teachings remind us to return to the present. It's a daily practice, one that involves self-awareness and a commitment to change. And the more we practice this, the better we become at letting go of regret and embracing the moment, which in turn helps us age with wisdom and grace. Lesson 2. You are not defined by your past mistakes. One of the most powerful teachings of Marcus Aurelius is the idea that we are not defined by our past. This is crucial for anyone struggling with regret because we often tie our identity to our mistakes. We think, I failed at that job, or I ruined that relationship. And these thoughts start to shape how we see ourselves. But Marcus Aurelius believed in constant self-improvement. He knew that mistakes are inevitable, but they don't have to define who we are. In Meditations, he reminds himself, if you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your judgment about it. And it is in your power to wipe out this judgment now. This means that while we can't erase our past actions, we can change how we interpret them. Instead of seeing mistakes as a reflection of who we are, Marcus encourages us to view them as opportunities for growth. Each error is a chance to learn, to improve, and to become a better version of ourselves. In this way, regret is transformed from something negative into something that fuels personal development. Think about it. How much time do we spend beating ourselves up over things that can't be undone? Marcus Aurelius teaches us to forgive ourselves, to let go of the self-blame, and to focus on the present moment, where we still have the power to make better choices. One of the core tenets of Stoicism that Marcus Aurelius embodied is amor fati, or love of fate. This idea is about embracing everything that happens to us, including the mistakes and regrets we carry. It's about accepting that life unfolds exactly as it is meant to, and that even the parts we wish we could change are essential to our journey. Marcus writes, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." This metaphor teaches us that every experience, no matter how painful, can be transformed into something valuable. Even our regrets have the potential to fuel our growth, to light the way forward. Amor fati isn't about passively accepting bad situations. It's about actively embracing them as necessary steps on our path. When we regret something, we're often wishing for a different version of our lives. But Marcus Aurelius would argue that everything we've been through has brought us to where we are now, and that is exactly where we're supposed to be. Loving our fate means loving even the parts of ourselves that we once regretted. This mindset can be incredibly liberating, especially as we grow older. By adopting amor fati, we free ourselves from the burden of wishing things were different. Instead, we learn to appreciate the wisdom and strength that our regrets have given us. Let's shift our focus to the modern world, where regret often takes on new forms, particularly in the age of social media. Today, we are bombarded with curated snapshots of other people's lives, career successes, picture-perfect families, adventures in exotic places. It's easy to feel that you've missed out or taken the wrong path when constant comparisons surround you. The fear of missing out, commonly known as FOMO, amplifies these feelings of regret. But imagine how Marcus Aurelius might approach this. His life was far from easy, yet he remained grounded in Stoic principles, including the idea that external appearances and opinions shouldn't dictate our internal state. Social media, with all its highlights, would have meant little to him. His focus would have been on his own actions and virtues, not on how others perceived him or what others seemed to achieve. One of Marcus's teachings that can help us navigate this modern struggle is his famous line, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinions than our own. This quote speaks directly to how we often let external validation influence our sense of self-worth, driving unnecessary regrets. By grounding ourselves in what truly matters, our own actions and growth, we can better navigate the digital age without falling prey to comparison-based regret. Lesson 3. Control what you can, accept what you can't. At the heart of Stoic philosophy is the dichotomy of control, what we can control versus what we cannot. Marcus Aurelius believed that our peace of mind depends on understanding this distinction and focusing only on what we can influence. Regret, especially, thrives in the gap between what we wish we could change and what is actually beyond our control. He writes in Meditations, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." This is a reminder that much of our suffering, including regret, comes from our thoughts about the past rather than the past itself. The Stoics teach us to focus our energy on controlling our present actions and responses, rather than wasting it on trying to rewrite history. Take a common regret: a failed relationship. Many people spend years thinking about what went wrong, replaying conversations in their heads, and wishing they could go back and change things. But according to Marcus, this focus on the past is misplaced energy. Instead, we should focus on what we can control: our current relationships, how we treat others today, and the lessons we've learned. By accepting that we cannot change the past, we free ourselves from the endless cycle of regret and gain the mental clarity to improve the present. Marcus Aurelius himself likely faced regrets, especially concerning missed opportunities. As a ruler, he was constantly making decisions with far-reaching consequences, and it's not hard to imagine that some of those decisions weighed on him. Yet, rather than dwell on what could have been, Marcus focused on what he could still do. Let's take a modern-day example. Many people regret not taking certain opportunities in their careers. Perhaps they didn't pursue a passion when they had the chance, or turned down a job offer that later proved to be a missed opportunity. But Marcus would remind us that these regrets don't have to define the rest of our lives. He would encourage us to focus on what we can do now to create meaning and success in the present. In one passage, Marcus wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This famous quote illustrates how even missed opportunities can become new avenues for growth. If you regret not pursuing a certain path, Marcus would suggest using that regret as motivation to seek new opportunities, to create something meaningful in the present instead of lamenting the past. Lesson 4. Death is not to be feared, so neither is regret. One of Marcus Aurelius's most profound teachings was his view on mortality. Death, to Marcus, was not something to be feared, but rather an inevitable part of life. This perspective is crucial when it comes to regret, because much of our regret is rooted in fear. Fear of running out of time, of not accomplishing enough, of missing our chance. Marcus wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." This powerful statement shifts the focus from fearing the end to embracing the present moment fully. When we understand that death is a natural part of life, we begin to see that regret has no place in a life well lived. Instead of fearing what we didn't do, Marcus teaches us to focus on living with purpose now. This Stoic acceptance of death as part of life also helps to alleviate regrets about aging. Many people look back on their youth with regret, wishing they could turn back time. But Marcus reminds us that every stage of life is valuable. and by embracing our mortality, we can release the grip of regret and live more freely in the present. The Stoic practice of memento mori, remembering that you will die, is central to Marcus Aurelius's philosophy. While it might sound morbid, this idea is actually a tool for living a fuller life. By keeping death in mind, Marcus believed that we would be more inclined to make the most of our time and let go of regrets that don't serve us. In Meditations, Marcus often reflects on the transient nature of life. He wrote, "Consider how quickly all things are dissolved and resolved, the bodies of men and their individual parts in the universe." This constant reminder of our mortality isn't meant to cause despair, but to inspire action. It pushes us to live with purpose and clarity, knowing that our time is limited. When we practice memento mori, we begin to see our regrets in a new light. If we are constantly aware that life is fleeting, why waste it on regrets? Instead, Marcus urges us to act. Take that trip, pursue that passion, forgive that person, or simply appreciate the beauty of the present moment. This mindset not only helps us age better, but it also brings peace to our everyday lives, freeing us from the chains of regret. Here's an interesting question. Can regret actually be a sign of growth? While Marcus Aurelius encourages us to let go of unnecessary regret, he also understood that reflection is a vital part of self-improvement. Sometimes the fact that we feel regret means we've learned something about ourselves and our values. For instance, Marcus believed that reflecting on our past actions is important, but only if it helps us grow. Regret, when used properly, can serve as a teacher. If we regret a harsh word we spoke or an opportunity we missed, it can be a sign that we've matured and now recognize the importance of kindness or seizing life's opportunities. Marcus himself often reflected on his own actions, not to dwell in regret, but to extract valuable lessons from his experiences. He wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." In this, Marcus encourages us to use regret as a tool for refining our character. Rather than let regret weigh us down, we can use it to identify areas of growth and make better choices moving forward. Lesson 5. Be kind to yourself as you age. One of Marcus Aurelius's more compassionate teachings focuses on the importance of self-kindness, especially as we age. In a world that often emphasizes youth, it's easy to fall into the trap of criticizing ourselves for the inevitable effects of time, be it physical appearance or missed opportunities. But Marcus believed that as we age, we should also grow in wisdom and kindness toward ourselves. In Meditations, Marcus writes, "Look well into thyself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if thou wilt always look." This idea encourages self-reflection without judgment. As we grow older and reflect on our lives, we must remember that the most valuable thing we can do is to treat ourselves with kindness, acknowledging that we did the best we could with the knowledge we had at the time. Self-compassion becomes especially important when dealing with regret. Instead of harshly criticizing ourselves for past mistakes, Marcus's Stoicism teaches us to approach ourselves with understanding. Aging better isn't just about looking outward and being productive. It's also about developing an inner sense of peace. This peace comes from forgiving ourselves for the things we can't change and embracing the lessons we've learned along the way. Interestingly, many of the practices that Marcus Aurelius used in his Stoic reflections mirror those found in modern-day therapeutic practices, such as cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. Both Stoicism and CBT encourage individuals to identify negative thought patterns, challenge them, and replace them with healthier ways of thinking. For Marcus, this was often achieved through the regular practice of self-reflection, something he did religiously in his personal journal. In Meditations, Marcus questions his reactions to external events and continually reminds himself of the Stoic principles of controlling his thoughts and emotions. This process of reframing negative thoughts is strikingly similar to modern cognitive therapy. For instance, when we feel overwhelmed by regret, CBT might encourage us to examine whether those thoughts are rational or if we are exaggerating the importance of past events. Marcus did something similar. He constantly worked to reframe his thoughts to align with Stoic principles, focusing on virtue and what he could control. While Stoicism is not a substitute for therapy, its emphasis on rational thought, acceptance, and self-reflection can be a powerful supplement for anyone looking to manage regret and live a healthier mental life as they age. It's a reminder that even in our modern world, ancient wisdom still holds significant value. Lesson 6. Focus on virtue, not the past. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about the importance of virtue, qualities like wisdom, justice, courage, and self-discipline. For Marcus, these were the highest goods, and the true measure of a life well lived was how much we cultivated these virtues, rather than whether we avoided mistakes or missteps. He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." This focus on action and character is one of the key lessons Marcus Aurelius offers to anyone grappling with regret. Instead of endlessly reflecting on the past or worrying about what you could have done differently, Stoicism urges you to focus on building your virtue in the present. By concentrating on developing virtues, you naturally shift your attention away from past regrets and toward a more meaningful future. You become less concerned with what has gone wrong in your life and more focused on how you can live well now. This philosophy helps us age better because it encourages personal growth and purpose, regardless of past mistakes. One of the most common forms of regret is the feeling of having wasted time, whether it's due to procrastination, bad decisions, or simply the unpredictability of life. Many people feel as though they've squandered valuable years. This regret can be particularly intense as we get older and realize that we may have fewer years ahead of us than behind. Marcus Aurelius, however, teaches us that time is never truly wasted if we are committed to living well in the present. He writes, "Remember that very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." This message reminds us that it's not about how much time we have, but how we choose to use it from this moment forward. Even if we feel we've wasted time, the truth is that every moment we've lived has contributed to who we are now. The experiences we regret may have taught us valuable lessons that we can apply today. Marcus would argue that rather than dwelling on time lost, we should focus on making the most of the time we still have. After all, it's not too late to live according to our values and virtues, no matter where we are in life. One of the most practical ways that Marcus Aurelius dealt with his own regrets and emotions was through the practice of journaling. His writings in Meditations were not meant for publication. They were deeply personal reflections that helped him process his thoughts and emotions. For Marcus, journaling was a way to confront his feelings, organize his thoughts, and remind himself of the Stoic principles he wanted to live by. Journaling can be a powerful tool for anyone dealing with regret. By writing down our thoughts and emotions, we gain clarity and perspective. Much like Marcus, we can use journaling to remind ourselves of what truly matters, what we can control, the importance of the present moment, and the value of living according to virtue. Journaling allows us to release the emotional weight of regret and make space for self-compassion and growth. If you're struggling with regret, try adopting Marcus's habit of writing down your thoughts at the end of the day. Ask yourself, what did I learn today? How can I apply Stoic principles to improve tomorrow? By doing this regularly, you can cultivate a healthier mindset and make peace with your past decisions. Marcus Aurelius's final lesson for dealing with regret is simple but profound. Keep moving forward. The past is behind us, and no amount of regret can change what has already happened. But we still have control over our present and future actions. Stoicism is fundamentally a forward-looking philosophy. It doesn't dwell on past mistakes, but encourages continuous growth and improvement. In Meditations, Marcus writes, "Do every act of your life as though it were the very last act of your life." This idea reflects the Stoic belief that we should live with urgency and intention, making the most of each moment we have. It's a reminder that even if we've made mistakes in the past, we still have the power to shape our future by living virtuously now. The philosophy of Marcus Aurelius teaches us that regret, while a natural part of life, doesn't have to define us. By embracing Stoic principles, we can age better, letting go of the past, focusing on the present, and continually striving to live a life of purpose and virtue. No matter where you are in your journey, these lessons can help you move forward with clarity, strength, and peace of mind. In conclusion, well, let's not conclude. Let's continue reflecting, growing, and learning from Marcus Aurelius's wisdom on regret. His teachings remind us that while the past may be set in stone, our response to it, our mindset and actions, can always evolve. Keep practicing, keep improving, and most importantly, keep moving forward without letting regret hold you back.